We've got a massive new sunspot group having risen in the northeastern limb. Likelihood of solar flares goes up. Solar activity goes up in general. Let's get to it, and lots more, here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Let's take a look at a composite series of images from the SDO. This is 335 plus 94 angstroms. We saw a nearly M-class flare down here. That happened just after 4 o'clock this morning on July 5th. And you're going to see some geomagnetic storm conditions likely tomorrow as a result of a coronal hole high-speed stream. So all kinds of activity kicking back up here from the closest star. Here's the geospace, Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. And things are pretty calm here, geomagnetically speaking. You can see a fairly homogeneous plasma pressure there, the magnetohydrodynamic pressure, which is scaled in this imagery in nanopascals. That is literally magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And this is what a solar proton would experience when it reaches the earthly geospace. This is part of the reason why we measure the solar wind at Lagrangian point 1. Because within the Earth's magnetosphere, you're not getting raw solar wind data. Those protons must make a decision when they reach Earth's magnetic moment. That's the last 4 hours. So here's our Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. The scale you're viewing here is nanotesla magnetic flux density. And again, like Earth's magnetic moment from space, this is pretty calm for the past 4 hours. We can expect geomagnetic storm conditions, a KP5 forecasted by NOAA, expected around midday universal time tomorrow, which is typically right around when we are recording our video for YouTube. Since that refresh will let it play through. It's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Geospace ground magnetic perturbations. K-index at 1 for the past 9 hours. Planetary K-index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. You can see we subsided off of a geomagnetic storm condition. By the way, if you'd like to support the channel, please do so via clicks. Visit our homepage and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Visit us on social media. You can send us an instant message on Discord if you like. There's the permanent invite link to our Discord chat. You can find all kinds of other links there to our Instagram page. Interested in how many miles I've been riding on the bike? Hit us up on Instagram. If you've got imagery you'd like us to cover on the daily space weather videos, hit us up on Instagram. We're more than happy to feature your content. Now, if you want to support the channel via subscription services, become a member of the Smash Team. Smashomash.com/Smash Team. And if you're not seeing all of our videos in your subscription feed on certain video hosting platforms, click posts from Smashomash.com/Smash Team's homepage, and you will find all of our major video releases. We also regularly stream live to Twitch because it's such a fantastically great live streaming platform. We use it on the regs, twitch.tv/Smashomash. And last but not least, if you want to support the channel via merch, maybe pick up some Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera merch. It's our second top seller. So whatever you do, don't pole vault the Caldera. It could be unhealthful. This public service message brought to you at massive personal risk and expense by Smash Staff and I. Give Smash Staff a raise. She desperately needs one. She is a partner in our operations. So hit us up on the Redbubble shop. The products from the Smash News Network are extremely high quality. So don't pole vault the Caldera. Our finest days lie ahead. No matter how dark days seem, you can quote me on it. So press like, press subscribe, tell your friends and foes about us. And remember, folks, we make videos about things besides space weather and meteorology. There's one about our trained attack goldfish. There's one about cycling. Yeah, we watched the World Championships for the Women's Madison on Saturday, so you can see the ending of that race. If you're wondering who won, I'm not going to tell you. Go watch the video. Now, moving to the real-time solar wind. We've seen a subsiding of the solar wind speed. It reached up to just below 500 kilometers per second. Now we're down in the high threes. Current conditions are about 382 kilometers per second. For the speed, for the density, about 4 protons per cubic centimeter. Moving into the magnetic data realm, we've seen some pretty tight ranges here over the past 24 hours. And we are expecting a quite strong coronal hole high-speed stream from a large coronal hole in the northern hemisphere. We'll get to it in a moment. It's very well defined. First, the heliospheric current sheet. And Earth has just snapped into a North Pole current sheet. So there you can see this happening. Here's the latest image. You can see Earth's magnetic potential field surface source line here is this orange line. You can see it is now in the green North Pole current sheet portion. South Pole current sheet over here shown in red. And let's continue on. Here's a line of sight field plot. Again, sunspot activity is going to rise abruptly along with the radial flux, which is only at 104 solar flux units. Next, moving to coronal holes. There is your coronal hole line of sight plot. And let's take a look at that visually in ultraviolet light, 193 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see tomorrow's geomagnetic storm conditions arrive a little bit later than expected, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Let's blast through some more data as we move into the realm of sunspots. Likelihood of solar flares is going to go way up. This group that just rose will be known as sunspot 3052, and it's quite magnetically complex. The likelihood of major solar flares now very high. The largest flare we've seen was from sunspot 3047. It was nearly an M-class flare. We'll get to it next. First, the 1700 angstroms wavelength, imagery of the last 24 hours from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, otherwise known as the SDO. You can see that very large sunspot rising in the northeast right there at the end of those frames. So here's a close-up of that. We've added 171 angstroms to the 1700 angstroms wavelength to highlight that rising sunspot. It's beta gamma class already, as are the groups that are leading it. Next, looking at the El Teide Spain magnetogram. It's a ground-based magnetogram. And the sunspots on the Earth-facing portion of the disk have been mostly stable over the past 24 hours. Here's your X-ray profile. And that flare was a C9 point something. Let's bring up the 1 day here. It looks like an M class, but it's saying 9.88. It may have barely reached into M class, but certainly a significant flare there, the most significant one we've seen in quite a while. It did not produce any relativistic particles, at least not yet. And here's some great imagery of it. Again, that large C-class flare came out of this active region down here. That is a beta gamma class sunspot group. Great imagery of that flare. Continuing on, here's a star chart. I want to know what's going on above my head, so I show the viewers as well. These daily space weather videos took us several months to figure out exactly what to cover, and I'm covering the space weather that I want to see, and I'm sharing with you, the viewer. It is an effort to understand the physics and to help advance the science of heliophysics indeed. That's why we're writing a paper explaining the sunspot cycles. A bunch of planets up there overhead at the moment: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, all rising ahead of the sun. Next, a planetary forecast. This is where things are now. Let's advance it 1 week. We'll be approaching a full moon in 1 week on the 12th of July. That's where planets will be located. And no, they still aren't going to kill you. So now looking at some coronagraphs, we've been forecasting coronal mass ejections and we're seeing a little bit of activity kicking up here. We are going to see more continuing over the next days. This is yesterday's coronagraphs. We'll also show you today's. There's today's coronagraphs. That's only 7 frames. So let's show a little bit more imagery here. Again, expect additional coronal mass ejections, whether they're Earth-directed or not. We'll have to wait and see. Here's the view from Stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the Soho Lascaux C3 at Lagrange 1. So we put up 90 frames here. There may be some activity happening as we make the video. That's 5:38 today on July 5th. And let's see what it shows on the Soho Lascaux C3. That could be some ejecta headed toward the Earth. We do see certainly a partial halo there. So remember, folks, if you're a new viewer, from Stereo A's perspective, Earth would be off on that line. Because once again, Stereo A is located here at Lagrange 5, chasing the Earth orbitally speaking, but seeing space weather ahead of the Earth. So that could be another little bit of ejecta headed toward the Earth. We'll let those last frames play through there, as it looks like it could be geo-effective. Expect to see additional coronal mass ejections, by the way, because there are a lot of filaments, or you could say prominences, in the earthly zone. Tomorrow's high-speed coronal hole wind stream is not a coronal mass ejection. It's from high-speed plasma emanating from that North Pole-oriented coronal hole. So here's 304 angstroms, a great wavelength to view prominences in coronal mass ejections. You can see an interesting prominence up here in the northeast, and some crown prominences happening up here around the North Polar region. Also, I would note that you can see the North Pole coronal hole still fixated at the north heliographic region of the sun. We'll close out our YouTube video today with the house favorite, 171 angstroms. 171. Just gorgeous imagery there from the SDO. Remember, folks, ignorance is the key to all knowledge. You can't possibly know something until you do. Ignorance, it's the root of all knowledge. Thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather here at the Smash News Network. Least busted name of news, and may that solar wind be at your back.